Buckle up. Netanyahu just announced Israel is beginning to defund the United Nations. Something big is getting ready to happen, and the backstory dates to December 23, when the United Nations passed that resolution against Israel, the resolution that will live in infamy. The basis of this international incident was not merely the act of declaring the Western Wall as Palestinian territory, and undermining the most basic spiritual tenets of Jerusalem as the holy site the Israelis want to be the capital of Israel. It was the way it transpired. The US seemed oblivious when the vote came before the UN, and it abstained. However, that was a dirty trick. Everyone knew that the US in all likelihood facilitated the appearance of the resolution. Yet, so many countries piled on, and all to give the impression that they had nothing better to do. It was if the entire United Nations body of global governance had agreed that, beyond the shadow of a doubt, the world's most pressing security issue moving into 2017 is Israel and its quest for a nation-state with Jerusalem as its capital. So, there are two dimensions to what Netanyahu is escalating now. The first aspect is the Israeli holy sites and the settlement spaces at stake in the negotiations, and the second issue is the manner in which the entire United Nations is bringing its weight to bear on this issue as a major global priority among the community of nations. The United Nations has essentially declared that, in its estimation, Israel represents a threat to world peace, international security, and goodwill among humans. This invites a question of perspective and judgment on the part of the United Nations. For the sake of perspective, let's consider a few simple facts. If Israel were a state in the USA, it would be the fifth smallest state in the Union, ranking just above New Jersey. Put another way, you could put the country of Israel inside the state of Florida almost 8 times. The following illustration shows the state of Israel in comparison to the Middle East, and also in comparison to the USA. Now, we have a clear concept of what is going on. The United Nations is stepping on a country not much larger than South Florida or New Jersey, and demanding that it give up more of its territory and more of its identity in the name of world peace. Ironically, the United Nations seems to have forgotten that it was formed about the same time as Israel. The United Nations seems to think that it is somehow superior to Israel, more important. However, the sanctity of the United Nations is no more guaranteed than that of the State of Israel. Both the United Nations and the State of Israel emerged in the aftermath of World War II, when superior forces of power had granted each of them a chance to exist. It seems somehow disingenuous of the United Nations to forget all of this, and to lose perspective. There are dozens and dozens of countries committing human rights violations, human trafficking violations, and labor law violations, every day, all over the world. For the United Nations to presume it is on a moral mission to sanctimoniously free the world from Israel's oppression is almost laughable. Here is what Netanyahu has unleashed. First, Israel currently gives the United Nations about $40 million annually. Of that funding, Israel has just voted to defund the first $6 million. In equivalence, this is the same amount of money required by the United Nations to fund 4 committees that it currently finances and supports in order to facilitate the resolution of important Palestinian issues. This is precisely how the withdrawal of funds was framed by Netanyahu as he announced the first stage of defunding. According to the Times of Israel, the cut to Israel's $40 million annual contribution to the United Nations represented the portion of the UN budget allocated to 4 committees on Palestinian issues. The significance is virtually unparalleled in contemporary history. Israel is standing up to the United Nations. That tiny, little country that is smaller than 45 states of the USA, is essentially cutting off the United Nations. The argument is simple. Why should an organization that denies our validity and seeks to destroy us be graced with our money? Furthermore, Israel is taking steps to cut diplomatic relationships with the countries who supported the resolution. Along these lines, New Zealand and Senegal have already received notice, and Israel's ambassadors to those 2 countries have been recalled. The strategy is to equate Israeli funds with Palestinian and international benefits, and to send a message: it's time to stop the madness, and when Trump takes over, a new day will dawn for the state of Israel, the USA, and the United Nations, as well, nations that think their top priority should be the annihilation of Israel. The question is, how could a small country, a dot on the world map, mean so much to so many people all over the planet? Do people on the other side of the globe from Israel believe they are somehow being thwarted by Israel's existence? As if Senegal feels the effects of Israel choking its very existence, halfway round the world, every day, and needs to find a way out. It is all quite preposterous, and it is all thankfully about to change as we arrive at a historic fork in the road, this week in fact. This week marks the end of 8 long, nauseating years of putting up with Obama's wimpy, liberal denial of American exceptionalism. It also signals the end of Israel's snubbing by the Obama administration. Political African Americans love to blame Jews for running the slave business. In retrospect, Obama spent a lot of time allowing many different light-skinned people to receive the retribution he thought they just deserved. The problem with Obama is that he was a college professor, and today's affirmative action professorial believes that Jews were the slave traders who brought Africans to America, and they deserve to get taken down for that, so he allowed the sanctity of Israel to dissipate internationally. Similarly, Obama probably felt that the KKK had terrorized black people in days gone by, so when we complained about ISIS, he lectured us about being Islamophobic, and that was because he thought we deserved to know what it is like to be hunted down, marked for death, and terrorized, with no help on the way from the government, just like the black people who had been persecuted by the KKK in this country. It is perhaps the ultimate irony that none of Obama's ancestors were slaves in America, and no white people alive today were slave masters in America. Yet, somehow, Obama has orchestrated and presided over the demoralization of our economy and our politics for 8 long, nauseating years as punishment for white people enslaving Africans in this country. His unkind rebuke of Israel is merely grist for the same mill. Now light-skinned people in America and Israel are supposed to wonder, have the sins of the fathers been paid for yet? This week, America and Israel finally get to breathe again. Now the next question to be asked is, have all the bills of the United Nations been paid yet? Breath deep.